Hello friend, I have a really cool nutrient nugget for you today. This actually comes from an email that I got this morning from one of my favorite newsletters ever from James Clear. If you guys aren't subscribed to James Clear's newsletters, you should do that immediately. He does once a week or once every other week some really awesome articles on like psychology of behavior and pattern changing and things like that. Very, very helpful stuff if you're interested in growing and becoming a better human. So here's an article that he just released today about the myth of like changing behaviors. So I'm going to read this to you. I want you to subscribe to his email newsletter as well. I'm going to put a link for that down below. Subscribe, you'll get the newsletters too, and hopefully they'll give you some really good information like they have for me. And here's his newsletter. It's called The Paradox of Behavior Change. The natural tendency of life is to find stability. In biology, we refer to this process as equilibrium or homeostasis. For example, consider your blood pressure. When it dips too low, your heart rate speeds up and nudges your blood pressure back into a healthy range. When it rises too high, your kidneys reduce the amount of fluid in the body by flushing out urine. All the while, your blood vessels help maintain the balance by contracting or expanding as needed. The human body employs hundreds of feedback loops to keep your blood pressure, body temperature, glucose levels, calcium levels, and many other processes at a stable equilibrium. In his book Mastery, martial arts master George Leonard points out that our daily lives also develop their own levels of homeostasis. And you and I have talked about homeostasis in just a few videos ago, actually. We fall into patterns for how often we do or don't exercise, how often we do or don't clean the dishes, how often we do or don't call our parents, and everything else in between. Over time, each of us settles into our own version of equilibrium. Like your body, there are many forces and feedback loops that moderate the particular equilibrium of your habits. Your daily routines are governed by the delicate balance between your environment, your genetic potential, your tracking methods, and many other forces. As time goes on, the equilibrium becomes so normal that it becomes invisible. All of these forces are interacting each day, but we rarely notice how they shape our behaviors. That is until we try to make a change, right? So the myth of radical change and overnight success is pervasive in our culture, right? Experts say things like the biggest mistake most people make in life is not setting goals high enough, or they tell us if you want massive results, you have to take massive action. On the surface, these phrases sound inspiring. What we fail to realize, however, is that any quest for rapid growth contradicts every stabilizing force in our lives. Remember, the natural tendency of life is to find stability. Anytime equilibrium is lost, the system is motivated to restore it. If you step too far outside the bounds for your normal performance, then nearly all of the forces in your life will be screaming to get you back to equilibrium. If you take massive action, then you quickly run into a massive roadblock. Nearly anyone who's tried to make a big change in their life has experienced some form of this. You finally work up the motivation to stick with a new diet, only to find your coworkers subtly undermining your efforts. You commit to going for a run each night, and within a week you're asked to stay late at work. You start a new meditation habit, and your kids keep barging into the room. The forces in our lives that have established our current equilibrium will work to pull us back, whether we're trying to change for better or for worse. In the words of George Leonard, resistance is proportionate to the size and speed of the change, not to whether the change is favorable or unfavorable. In other words, the faster you try to change, the more likely you are to backslide. The very pursuit of rapid change dials up a wide range of counteracting forces which are fighting to pull you back into your previous lifestyle. You might be able to beat equilibrium for a little while, but pretty soon your energy fades and the backsliding begins. So the optimal rate of growth. Of course, change is certainly possible, but it's only sustainable within a fairly narrow window. When an athlete trains too hard, she ends up sick or injured. When a company changes course too quickly, the culture breaks down and employees get burnt out. When a leader pushes his personal agenda to the extreme, the nation riots and the people reestablish the balance of power. Living systems do not like extreme conditions. Thankfully, there's a better way, he says. Consider the following quote from systems expert Peter Senge. Virtually all natural systems, from ecosystems to animals to organizations, have intrinsically optimal rates of growth. The optimal rate is far less than the fastest possible growth. When growth becomes excessive, as it does in cancer, the system itself will seek to compensate by slowing down, perhaps putting the organization's survival at risk in the process. By contrast, when you accumulate small wins and focus on 1% improvements, you nudge equilibrium forward. It's like building a muscle. If the weight's too light, your muscles will atrophy. If it's too heavy, you'll end up injured. But if the weight is just a touch beyond your normal, then your muscles will adapt to the new stimulus, and equilibrium will take a step forward. In order for change to last, we must work with the fundamental forces in our lives, not against them. Nearly everything that makes up your daily life is an equilibrium, a natural set point, a normal pace, a typical rhythm. If we reach too far beyond this equilibrium, we find ourselves being yanked back to the baseline. So the best way to achieve a new equilibrium is not with radical change, but with small wins throughout the day. It's a great paradox of behavior change. If you try to change your life all at once, you'll quickly find yourself pulled back into the same patterns as before. But if you merely focus on changing your normal day, you'll find your life changes naturally as a side effect. Then he has a couple footnotes here. So he says it's worth noting that radical change can work, but only under very specific circumstances, most notably when we're forced to accept them permanently. For example, people will often radically change their behavior after major life events like graduating college, moving to a new city, starting a new job, getting married, having a baby. Pro tip, don't try all of these at once. These big changes lead to entirely new habits that persist for years. Why? Because generally speaking, it's quite difficult to get rid of a baby, get divorced, find a new job, move to a city, and so on. The new lifestyle is permanent, so are the radically new habits that come with it. And then the second footnote is that another note about this George Leonard character who shares an interesting insight about changing and homeostasis. Stability is comfortable, and that means by default change is uncomfortable. Thus, it's not always a bad thing to feel some pain or discomfort or uncertainty when trying something new within reason, because these feelings can be seen as a signal not that something's wrong, but that something is actually right. You're experiencing discomfort precisely because you're changing. So, what do you guys think about that? Let me know down below. I think of this so much because I hear a lot of stories of nutritarians who made dramatic shifts, and Furman is actually always talking about change everything right away, right? But for me personally, it's taken me years to get here, right? Years to get to the point where traveling in a hotel room, I would make this for lunch and be happy about it. Right? This isn't the kind of thing that I would eat, and I couldn't even eat the whole thing. But here I am doing everything I can to have a salad like this, just on a little week trip here instead of getting all excited about going out to restaurants and, breaking my diet and things like that. So let me know what you guys think about this down below. I love this concept, and please sign up for James Clear's newsletter. You will not be disappointed when you sign up. Great information. So let me know what you think down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. You are the best, and I wish you a great day. See you tomorrow. Bye!